We are back from break, folks, and I just really wanted to jump in because I saw Foxy Folklorists say you're featuring my book, and I don't know if you had a chance to read the quote about it, but it's very good. I think we've DM'd that to you, but hi, welcome. This is the part where we interview the guest, and this week we have none other than Dr. Lynne S. McNeill with us. Lynn, are you ready to be interviewed?
I am so ready. I've been preparing for this moment since you guys began.
Wow.
I want you to know.
Very good.
So I was
Very
like, this is going to be like a, culminating moment.
Lynn, that explains how you could sit down in front of the camera at AFS and talk for 30 minutes. So
yeah, exactly.
It was a warm-up.
That was just part of my training, guys.
The warm-up.
Part of my training. Yeah, exactly.
Before I ask you the first question, I do believe we have to thank a special group of people. Dom, would you like to do this week, or would you like me to do it?
Yeah, I can do it this week. Awesome. Lynn and esteemed guests in the Academy, you might see me and Daisy asking the questions and think, wow, Dom and Daisy really do all the questions this week, but that could not be more incorrect because our questions are written and bounced off the walls and compiled by our intrepid, beautiful, and I'm going to say incorrigible Folkwise interview sleuths who help us write our questions every week. Chat and Lynn, if there's a question you like that makes you smile or go, wow, that's a good question, don't think us, think the sleuths.
Wonderful.
Hey.
Go sleuths. That was amazing. Lynn, I have a question for you.
I am so ready.
People know you for your work with Slenderman and supernatural folklore, but what people might not know is that you are one of the quintessential people to ask about cat folklore. How do cats and the supernatural relate to gender expression?
Oh my God, this is very exciting. I mean, when I wrote my master's thesis, which I wrote about folklore and cats, and there's like a sad story about how I ended up doing that. I'd just gotten 2 kittens. I was a new MA student at USU. Jeannie Thomas, the amazing Jeannie Thomas, was teaching my theory and methods class, and she sent us all to the archives and was like, find something and like do this weekly assignment on it. And I ended up at the Wayland Hand Collection and I'm like looking, and like every drawer seemed to have cats in it, and I was like, what the hell? And I was wrong. It was short for catalog.
Oh my God.
But it got me thinking.
That is so
about
awesome.
Cats. It was like so embarrassing.
No, that's awesome.
But it got me thinking about cats. And then I read, as so many of us do, and it like changes our lives forever, read David Hufford's work. And what I wrote my master's thesis on was basically this idea that cats are experientially liminal in the way that the supernatural is sort of this inherent quality of liminality of being between 2 states, being present and not present, alive and not alive, these sorts of things. And at that time, what I was writing about was the idea that women were perceived as similarly liminal in a way that connected them to cats in the same way that connected cats to the supernatural, which the thesis was titled Crazy Cat Ladies and Kitten Killing Men, because a lot of the legends we tell about men specifically and cats are murderous and violent. And I actually had a number of folklorists sending me a lot of good information on this, but far more recently have had the benefit of receiving a phone call from a local newspaper because the high school student who identifies as cat is getting a litter box in the high school bathroom. Legend made it here. And
oh my gosh.
You have a cat folklorist.
Yes.
Skyview High School. You have a folklorist
awesome.
who conveniently knows about cats and legends.
Yeah.
And so I got this phone call from a reporter who was just like, cat litter box, student, identifies as a cat, school has given her a litter box, go. And so I'm going on and on about as far as anyone knows, this legend began, the genres of joke and legend are so similar and so intermingled. And this began as a joke in the early 2000s about a furry convention. Someone was reviewing a convention for furries that had taken place and made the joke, we don't know if they're putting litter boxes in the bathrooms yet, but blah, blah, blah. Like, I mean, just sort of a joke at the expense of people who are dressing up as animals, you know, and it's just sort of like, wah, wah, whatever, we get it, fine, joke. But then it becomes now in this era where people are being frightened by the concept of identities and, you know, that we might have an identity or a gender expression or whatever that people are unfamiliar with and they don't know what to do with. And this motif of student demands litter box because she identifies as a cat was traced back to an actual student at Skyview High School. This is not where this legend started. This legend started, I think, in the Midwest, and I'm not getting my details right.
Well, that's
but here in Cache Valley, Utah,
if it's
that's where it was, right?
Midwest Fur
Michigan?
Fest. Well, the Midwest Fur Fest is in like isn't it Indiana?
Okay.
Dom, do you remember?
Illinois.
Rosemont. It's in Rosemont, Illinois. Yeah. So yes, that would make sense.
The new high school legend started, I think, also in the Midwest. That high schools are putting litter boxes in the bathrooms for students who identify as cats.
Wow.
And it's fascinating because at Skyview, I mean, legends latch on where there's little pieces, right? They had a day that was like costume day. Everyone was dressed up on this day at Skyview High School. But there is one student who openly and proudly is a furry and wore her fursuit to school, and that was the true point that all of the dissenters and naysayers and angry people in our local political scene were turning to of, no, it's real. My daughter took a picture of her at school dressed in her fursuit. And of course, everyone, all the sane people responded with like, why are you taking pictures of high school
why are you taking pictures of children?
Weird.
What?
You know? Like,
why does this high school have a $6,000 costume? The cosplayer was.
Yeah, I know. And her story was sort of a part of this. Like, she and her dad, she got really into, you know, furry culture, and her dad was like, yes, honey, I will support you in this. And like, she got the costume. It's like an amazing story for her. And it's just this super nasty turn that it takes. So I actually ended up doing a lot of trying to put out fires and to toe the line that folklorists have to toe so often of saying, no, that's not true, but shut up. If she's a cat, that's fine. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
so
it's that balancing act that, and as I'm doing, and then it turned out the article he wrote was just an interview with me. It wasn't like the news story about the event. It was just the headline was like folklorist has opinion about litter boxes.
It's like no analysis. It's just like it's the transcript.
It's like just what I said. I was like, oh crap. Okay. The story was that I had thoughts about this.
Oh my god. Yeah, you're like, uh-oh.
Anyways, it was weird, but I feel that somewhere in there is something left to be said about this topic on a scholarly level where you know, because it's too easy. And legend scholars, anyone who's listening who's a legend scholar knows this, that the act of debunking and fact checking too easily becomes an agreement with condemnation, right, of the behavior. That, you know, like whatever it is that's being done, and we say, no, nobody's doing that, and it can lean in the direction of, because it would be terrible if they were. So yeah.
That's so fascinating considering.
Surprisingly contemporary answer for that question.
Yeah, I mean, it so just relates to, like, I think the greater fear of, like, gender and restroom usage in general. But it's like, somehow safer or more ridiculous to talk about it if the person is a cat. As though that was, like, equates to gender identity. That's so fascinating, yeah.
It is, and it's that let's push this to an extreme that we can all agree is over the top. Yeah, let's criticize that.
Right.
Rather than like the way more reasonable suggestion of, why not just bathrooms for people?
Yeah,
you know,
like,
which is not an extreme thing to ask for, you know?
Right,
so, but it's making these things, but it is, I mean, it wasn't like, it was a cat specifically, and I don't, as a folklorist who has studied cat folklore, I don't think that is meaningless. I think that obviously there's furries of all stripes, right?
Yeah.
Like, and maybe a litter box is just easy enough as a.
And
visual, but
most furries are like canines too. Like I would say the
Oh, yeah.
majority of
Yeah.
people who are furries are like
Yeah.
a dog or a wolf or a fox or like a canine, which does not use a litter box. That's so
Exactly.
interesting.
Daisy's about to go on another rant about placental mammals.
Oh God.
Okay.
Lynn knows that too well, I think.
Thank
From
you.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's so interesting.
Awesome.
I have another question for
Yeah,
you.
it was a. Okay, sorry.
No, you're totally good. As one of the most public-facing folklorists doing what we like to call edutainment on paranormal TV shows, what's the biggest learning curve about how to talk about folklore to general audiences?
Yeah, so this is a big one because what I have come to realize over time is that my best answers are the least likely to be used ever on television.
So
And
fascinating.
that's not up to me. I'm not the editor. This is a weird thing that happened. I was walking through Washington Square Park in New York City, and I was chatting with the person I was walking with, and this woman comes up to me and she goes, "Are you Lynne McNeill?" And I was
Whoa.
like, "Whoa."
Yeah,
Like the what? Like yes, and like
Yeah.
super like
yeah,
flattered.
like uh-huh.
It turns out she is one of the editors of Paranormal Caught on Camera, and she recognized my voice because she's the one who sits there
Oh
for
my God.
hours on end, listening to what I say, and then chopping it up into little pieces and making it into something they want me to say.
Wow.
The thing is, like, one of the easy discoveries was that they want things that are funny. And so that was
Sure.
easy enough. You know what I mean? Though
Uh-huh.
I find myself consciously watching certain clips and being like, I'm going to put my ethnographic hat on and say, I don't want to make fun of this person. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like I
right.
could, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
Because I do think that one of the unexpected side benefits of a show as over the top as Paranormal Caught on Camera is that it really is largely people submitting their own content. And like a lot of the
That's
content
so
we get,
interesting.
I'm sure, confession, I don't watch it. I've never seen a full episode of Paranormal Caught on Camera.
I have to
I've been on
say,
it for 4 seasons
it's
and I've never
like-
seen an episode.
Well, I get like it being difficult to watch yourself do stuff. Like sometimes I find that challenging. I don't know if Dom, if you feel that way at all, but sometimes I don't like watching myself do it. But if it's a different episode, I could see why that. I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you just not want to
I don't
know?
know,
Do
but
you like
anyway,
not want to
so
know what they're cutting?
I guess I don't want to hear
Uh-huh.
like, oh shit, that's what they made me say.
Oh, sure.
But
yeah.
when we get all of our materials for the interviews, we get like the whole memorat that goes along with these. If they've done an interview,
Oh,
we get
that's
to read
cool.
it. We get the backstory. We get all of this. And a lot of it is like really meaningful. And so I
Wow.
find that I don't know how much they use it, but I get the opportunity to say things like, she's the one who, lost her partner. She's the one who knows why the fact that it's this that's turning on and off unexpectedly is meaningful to her. Like, I'm going to go with that. Like, I think, yes, this is her partner communicating with her. Like, I get to sort of pitch it that way, not because, like, absolutely ghosts are all real and this is definitely a ghost. I get to pitch it that way because let's just listen to what people are saying. And this is a meaningful experience for her. And she's telling us it's meaningful.
Yeah.
So it's meaningful. Like, that's the
Right.
conclusion. And I'm sure what I end up saying is like, clear-cut instance of spontaneous recurrent psychokinesis. And then that's what they
Right.
put on TV.
Yeah.
But so I do feel that there's a behind the scenes work of like educating the people who make TV about
Yeah.
certain things. So like I recently got to chat with some of the people at Prometheus. They do The Unexplained. I've done a bunch of their episodes before, and I was chatting with one of their directors. I think they do Ancient Aliens too. And I was just sort of saying like, hey, you guys know that like a lot of the, Indian curse, like stories that push a supernatural explanation for historical moments, like really maybe we shouldn't be as
Yeah.
just a bunch of generally white people like talking about that as a spooky thing, like
Yeah.
on national television. And again, I think their their hands are tied. Everyone's hands are tied all the way up. It's just a big tower of people with their hands tied, answering to what's going to make money for large networks. And that's shitty, but it's reality. What I've realized, though, is simple is better. I mean, I've talked about this, gave a talk about this at one point, like Jan Brunvan's answer to David Letterman about what are urban legends. And he just goes, they're those stories that are, they sound so good, they're probably too good to be true, and they are. And I was just like, wow, like that's not how in my, urban legend, contemporary legend class I would define contemporary legends, but it worked for Letterman. And so I think that like audience pleasing sound bites, it's that or it's don't be asked back. And I think that's really the hard thing is I have to weigh the value of, I'm going to say something overly simplistic and possibly, potentially the hope is that it doesn't verge into offensive, but oversimplifying for sure. Or maybe
accidentally like alienating to the people who are looking for the deeper piece of it, but not the overall audience.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So I'm going to risk that. I'm going to risk looking silly. I'm going to risk people being like, holy crap, they'll give a PhD to anyone these days, won't they? Which has been said to me. But for the sake of having the title of folklorist in the public eye, and people can Google me and be like, oh crap, there's a university program for this. Yeah. This appears to be a thing. And hopefully immediately start getting more information. So I like to think of like media forward folklorists as first folklorists. These are people's first encounters with the discipline. And that's a different role than being someone's like scholarly, robust academic, mentor or something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so... Yeah, I wish that when we think about, like, stuff with Folkwise, we're kind of, like, trying to bridge some of those gaps, and you just always kind of end up trying to tell people to take more risks with what they say. It's like, let people just be folklorists on a live TV show, see what happens.
Well,
they're all smart people.
The long form is good.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like,
yeah, that's true.
I remember once, I've probably told this story before somewhere, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I had the awesome opportunity of getting to film a pilot for the Travel Channel for a show that did not get picked up. And I have a lot of thoughts about why it didn't get picked up. But at one point, I think I was trying to say something, and it's unscripted TV, which is not very unscripted, but I was trying to say something like, legends can be true on a variety of different levels. They can be like symbolically true, they can be interpersonally true, they can be culturally true, or they can be literally true. Yeah. That's like, I was trying to say that sentence on TV, and they were like, cut it down to 2. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And they were like, pick 2. Like, it can be 2 things. So they were like, maybe say they could be symbolically true, or they could be literally true. And I'm like, I don't want to. Yeah. I don't want to make it a binary. I want, the whole point of folklore as a discipline is that it's not this or that. It's like this whole polysemy that's going on. Like, that's the whole point, is that. Yeah. And they were just like, no. And they were just like, you're overestimating your audience. And I was really like, I don't think I am, damn it.
Yeah. That's so
I don't think Anthony Bourdain dumbed it down that much, come on. And I think it's sad because I think people were ready for Adam there's like
in the early days, Anthony Bourdain dumbed it down.
He did. Yes, he did. I think that it's a sad generalization. There's the automatic dumbing down for popular media, and there's an additional dumbing down for the supernatural. And that sucks. I think that's so true. Bad.
That's such a fascinating observation. Yeah.
And it's so unfortunate because it's almost this implicit assumption among the general populace that, like, if we're going to get all thinky on it, it's not going to be on this show. And it's like, why not?
Why?
Like, that's crazy. It should be on this show that we get all thinky about it. So I do think, like, you guys, what you're doing is happy medium of it's going to be fun, it's going to be entertaining, and you're going to get 4 adjectives for what a legend could be.
Right.
Not just.
But we're also never going to be on Discovery or the Travel Channel or whatever, because we're asking
You
too
never
much.
know. You don't know.
Maybe not in this version.
I mean,
who knows?
But
Who knows?
we'll see.
I like being
Yeah,
on Twitch, Daisy.
Yeah, I like that. Twitch is cool because the community is with us at the same time, rather than professing to like an invisible audience or like a numerical audience. We're kind of like having a conversation with people who are asking questions and like engaging with the content that we share. Yeah,
it can be discursive in
which
this
is folklore.
way where it's like and there are people trying for this. Like I was a guest speaker, as Andrea Kita had been before me, in PhenomenaCon 3, which is a largely paranormal investigator themed and run convention. Super cool. If you guys are looking, like, is there a community that I can kind of be like, these people are neat? They're neat. Like, they were awesome. They were inclusive. They were accessible. It was really nicely, intentionally done. And they were basically like, will you just come and tell people what you do? Like, what a folklorist perspective on all of this is. And there were like lots of people in the audience, and they asked really intelligent, thoughtful questions, and I was just like, damn, this is possible. Like, ostensibly this conference is the audience of Paranormal Caught on Camera, and look at how smart they are. It was like,
right.
Come on.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically you have to, you just have to be willing to look silly to be a folklorist on TV. Just know you will be made to look silly.
Oh, well, we never do that on this show, so.
Nope.
Never.
Yeah, I don't
Nobody would ever put a dog on their head and shout, I did the thing.
We would never all wear flannels together, or, we would never do that.
We are so,
I love it.
Like, our fashion
just like, how many costumes have come together an hour before the show,
like,
Daisy?
Oh my god, I was like counting.
This included. Flannel day included.
This included. I got another question for you. It's a little bit unrelated.
Okay, I'm ready.
What is in the folklorist toolkit, and what's something that the toolkit has today that wasn't there 20 years ago?
Oh, dang. So now I have no idea if this question is intentionally referencing the chapter that I have.
It's definitely very specifically referencing that.
It is. Okay, good. Just making sure. The folklorist toolkit, which was not my idea. It was Diane Goldstein's really brilliant idea. In her similarly sort of, I think the connection here is that it was an outward-facing article that she wrote called Not Just a Glorified Anthropologist, about what unique characteristics a folklorist brings to a situation of cultural analysis that someone else who studies culture on a high thinky level might not bring. And what she basically said, and I love this, I love that she wrote this article. The reason I love it is because it answers that question that I had, that I know so many people have when you start studying folklore academically, is tell me how I'm not an anthropologist. Like, just tell me how what I'm doing is different. And as Diane says, what we do is different is because of the three concepts, the folklorist toolkit of tradition, transmission, and genre. And she's basically like, folklorists would pay attention to those concepts. And that's really, now we can kind of get into some nice, weedy, theoretical folkloristic stuff, but those things come together to bridge all of the nuanced ideas of what makes folklore, right? Transmission, it is a thing that is passed on. Tradition, it is a thing that is recognizably based on precedent. Genre, it holds a particular form that we identify by not only its shape and its size, but also its function and its movement and its characteristics that way. And you put those things together and you basically get these dynamically variable pieces of culture in like a super awesome, inherently postmodern sense, which is so cool, that travel around the world doing work for us, like communicatively. We do work with them as our tools. And the folklorist uses these concepts, these more generalizable things of tradition, transmission, and genre. So I think, would we add, if I were to design a folklorist toolkit and not just steal Diane's awesome idea and write my own article about it, because what I was saying was like, here's what these things look like in the digital age. And they look different. Form looks different. Transmission looks different. Tradition looks different. They're not totally different. I think that there's a tendency to want to throw the baby out with the bathwater in saying digital folklore is so new and so different. And I know that, I mean, this probably makes me like a Luddite or really stodgy or something, but one of my favorite things about the digital context of folklore is the way that our old concepts fit so freaking well, because what that says to me is like, that we were right. Like,
yeah.
Von Sydow was right, like that is a thing that sticks around even when you insanely change the nature of the environment in which folklore is being transmitted. Like, these ideas still work. The concept of the passive bearer in meme appreciation, I find so fascinating. You know what I mean? Like, my students who are all like, but we don't engage in that folklore. We've never made a meme. And it's like, yeah, like that's the whole passive bearer, is that you don't, but you know about it, you recognize it when you see it. You could explain it to someone else when they go, what's that fat Bugs Bunny? And you can be like, yeah, I know, that's Big Chungus, right? Like I don't have to have made a Big Chungus meme.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have to have made one of those memes to be
know,
a passive bearer of that tradition, right? And to help enable its circulation and
or incorrect circulation.
Daisy's degree away,
or incorrect circulation to become its own community meme. It's our own culture now that we think that Big Chungus is
dynamic variation.
Yeah, look at
right?
that.
It's just a variant of Big Chungus.
Exactly.
So I don't
sense,
I don't. There's a part of me that just wants to stick with Diane's, like, these are the things, tradition, transmission, genre. I think if I were to think of the concept of the toolkit now, like, what would I add to it? And it's not something I would add because of the passage of time. It's not something I would add because of the qualities of contemporary culture. It's something I would add because I imagine it should probably also have been there. And that's basically, and I think it's presupposed in Diane's three concepts there, but is the idea of Barry Tolkien's twin laws of folklore, that spectrum of dynamism and conservatism, which again, dynamism is inherent in transmission and conservatism is inherent in tradition, that there are elements that make something recognizably the same, and there are elements that make it unique to its communicative context. Like, and so they're in there. They're just like packaged like 5 layers down. And so when you tell someone tradition, transmission, and genre, they don't think variability, dynamism, conservatism, consistency. You know what I mean? So those are, for me, the core. I mean, when in Folklore Rules, I describe folklore as informal and traditional. Those were words that came from so many different places in so many different ways. When I was a student at Berkeley, Alan Dundes would talk about multiple existence and variation, and multiple existence is tradition. It is passed on. This thing exists in more than one iteration. And variation is dynamism. Barry Tolkien's concepts of dynamism and conservatism. Conservatism is multiple existence. Variation is dynamism, is informality, and conservatism is tradition, is multiple existence. Like, it all speaks back to each other. So it's like this incredibly key idea that all these different folklorists have targeted in all these different ways, using all this different language, that I think is really the crux. And obviously it's how I chose to define it, but still.
That's awesome.
Anyway.
I will say,
did that answer make any sense at all? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, it did to me. It did to Daisy Dreambrain. But no, I think it did. We oftentimes,
it made sense to Hot Dom Summer.
So there we go. Okay, yeah. So it made sense to me, and sometimes we use your definition of folklore as in traditional or informal culture from Folklore Rules as like a kind of entry level thing too, because that's such a concise way to bring some connections for people together. About what it might be before like getting to the nuanced piece of it. So I think that you just like expanded upon that definition that you created as one of the more concise versions of what folklore might mean to a scholarship. So
yeah, I think it's helpful to people to sort of pitch it against culture that doesn't change, right? People are used to the idea that like cultural expression comes in many forms, like like texts and images and songs and behaviors and all of this, and sometimes those are informal and can look different in different places, and sometimes they're more static and copyrighted and look the same, and it's a helpful way to illustrate it for new people.
I have another question for you.
Okay.
What are serial collaborations, and how have they merged as a newly influential expressive tradition within contemporary communications technology? Yes, that's a quote.
Wow. I really like that question. Yeah. So serial, I was so angsty about that frickin' terminology, guys. Like, I think I had it initially as like sequential collaborative creative endeavors or something, and it was going to be like SCCEs. And I was just like, I'm coining this most amazing acronym of my life.
In your defense, when you're on TV, so much of the things you want to say sounds like get cut. So I could understand in like your written text wanting to be like, no, I know what it is, please. So no, I get that.
Like, spell it out.
Yeah.
So this was an interesting moment academically for me, because I had assumed I was going to go from my master's degree to my PhD at Memorial University of Newfoundland and write a PhD thesis on legends. And that was just going to be it. And then, the internet was big at that time. I mean, it had been big for a while. I'm in that exciting generation of people, the Oregon Trail generation, who got the internet in high school, but had a childhood completely devoid of the internet. But I do feel actually that being that age sort of primed me to be looking at these things. And I got really interested, of course, in digital culture, which was at the time, digital folklore was like not really a thing. Like, people were not sure that was going to work, which is why I think I'm so excited whenever our old school concepts do work. But what really caught my attention was these ways that we engaged our landscape, engaged the physical world around us, using the networking power of the internet to sort of fake out a sense of a small worldview. So the small worldview has been described by a lot of people, anthropologists, for a long time, as a deep interconnectedness between all people, if only we could see the connection. So Stanley Milgram, a Yale sociologist, did his 6 degrees of separation tests, highly questionable methodologies, but the idea was he was testing out this folk idea that we are connected to everyone else by no more than 6 steps if we could just see them, and he sort of wanted to try and test this out. But it's one of those folk statistics that sticks around. I'm actually talking about stuff related to this at Iskler. I'm excited.
Hell yeah.
But
which is next week, by the way, people.
The idea of this next week in Ottawa, in Gatineau, I guess. But this idea that we play with this, there's a obvious psychological benefit to the small view, and that we come up with these games, pastimes, that I remember someone, in building off of the research I had done, posing the very astute, I will say, question, it is unclear why McNeill didn't simply call these games. And I was like, yeah, I know. Sorry.
Yeah, please.
I should have called it a game.
Move on, yeah. Next
Forgive
question.
me. Like, I think I was going with like you don't win it. How do you win geocaching? How do you win,
I guess
Where's
that's true.
George? Like,
I
don't know. I was overwrought, guys. It was a doctoral dissertation. It's supposed to be overwrought.
Oh my god, yeah.
So yeah. Anyways, what was the thing that caught me, and this is where I think the Folklorist Toolkit serves me really well, is everyone I interviewed about this stuff. Like, I did a really fun interview with users of bookcrossing.com, which is a website that enables you to basically track the books that you leave in the nightstand drawer of the hostel that you stayed in Helsinki,
cool.
and then see where it goes around the world. You write a little number inside the book, and then people can go online and type in the number and track all the different places the book has been.
Gosh.
It's awesome.
Okay,
and so I got
I did something part of like an organization like that called the Sketchbook Project. It was a little bit more official, but they had like high school students fill out sketchbooks, send them to what is ostensibly like a library somewhere, and you could like track how if people checked out your full sketchbook and like that kind of stuff. Cool. It was like really interesting. Yeah.
Right?
That's
I mean,
so
Post Secret in a lot of ways is sort of similar to this. Like there's well, that's what I did. So in this book crossing interview, and I got like something insane, like 800 replies. It was incredible at the time. I was just like mind blown.
It's overwhelming.
I asked people, what do you do that's like this? And they would answer, I go geocaching and I do Where's George and I, these sort of all these other things that I was like, that's not like book crossing at all. Like book crossing is like sharing and like passing an object around the planet's surface and following it and feeling the sense of connection with strangers in like Ulaanbaatar who find your book, and I'm like, geocaching is just like
that, I'm like, that is geocaching though, now you say that.
I know, right? Like, so I came up with the term serial collaborations because what geocaching, like you think of the little treasure trove that is a geocache in the landscape. What a geocache and a book crossing book.
It's so fascinating.
I know, it's awesome.
Yeah, so cool. People have left like so many cool notes and just right? Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah.
That's the thing. Like what these two things have in common is that they are collaborative projects. Obviously, it's not a geocache if it's not visited, if it's just your secret buried treasure, it's not a geocache, right? It needs other people seeking it and finding it. It's not a book crossing book if you don't give it away, set it free, right?
Yeah.
So it requires other people. It's collaborative, but that collaboration is serial in nature and not what's the word I'm looking for? Simultaneous, where like a barn raising is collaborative, but together, right? And there's like serial things. There's things people do alone, like solo traditions. But they're not collaborative. They're not predicated on the idea that you are joining a community of people who have done this. Like there's a book that just came out that I was asked to review, and I'm very excited to read right now called Locking the Love Lock or something. Love locks, that whole tradition of taking a couple taking a padlock and like literally, unfortunately, in this day and age, like weighing down an bridge in an old European city to the extent that it becomes structurally unstable, So they've become sort of divisive that way, but that you don't just get a padlock and put it on your fence at home. You get a padlock and you put it on a love lock fence.
You're like
because consensus, like collaboration has agreed this is the fence that your lock's going to go on. And so that serial collaborative sense that, and I basically said, this is an emically recognized genre. Like, I don't have a name for it. I'm going to give it the name serial collaboration. That's not going to catch on. Nobody's going to call it that. They're going to call it a cool game they play. But that's what unites these things. I mean, it was basically my job to say, okay, these folk have communicated to me that these are a category of vernacular expression. And now I need to say, what's the unifying factors of that category? And why are those unifying factors significant in such a way that the category persists over all these different variations? And so that was basically what I did for my dissertation, and I already forgot the second half of the question. I'm sorry.
No, that was basically it. I mean, you do mention contemporary communications technologies, and I wonder if do you mean that like on the internet, or do you mean because like, so how does that happen on the internet? Because my brain, when you said that, immediately went to like commenting on a Tumblr post in a collaboration of like narrative or like I don't know any of the people who previously commented. They're like usernames. I don't know who they are. I don't even follow them necessarily or whatever. I don't even pay attention to their content. But when it comes across my dash, like making a contribution to that post is a collaboration. But also, there's not an expected return from like the original. But it's obviously not like every single kind of post. I don't know what you. There's got to be a further categorization or something.
Yes.
Because.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Tell me.
This is very exciting. No, because this is still. So what I did when I finished my PhD was exactly what you're not supposed to do, which is don't publish your dissertation and instead write a textbook. So that's like nobody wanted me to do that. Nobody was like, hey, you know what you should do? Don't publish a scholarly monograph that will get you credibility. Just write a short textbook instead. Nobody said that. Anyway, so I still, in the back of my brain, I'm still working on this. The dissertation will be a book someday, but it has now, so there's a lot of different I'm sorry, I'm excited about this question, so I'm not making any sense.
No.
What I focused on in the dissertation
making sense.
was
Go
moments where,
Go
thank
off.
you,
Go off.
was moments where a serial collaboration manifest as a material artifact. So that was my sort of boundary on this.
Because
was
otherwise,
there's
how
something
could you manage
tangible,
that? Yeah.
right? In the real world, which is a misnomer, we know, in studying digital culture, but in the offline world, in the you know, the world of tangibility, which is already being blurred as a category as it is.
I mean, that's already so fascinating
there is
too, because you don't find
geocaching,
right?
VR,
you, like, don't
AR.
Well, in geocaching, you don't find out unless you like use the app or you find it online. You use a coordinate. Like, that's so interesting. Yeah,
exactly.
Anyway,
Well,
I get the boundary for like narrowing your research, but
yeah. So, and that's how I meant contemporary communications technology was basically. So I used as my completely still in the tangible field boundary, but non-virtual, non-digital, was the building of Inukshuk, the little Inukshuk statues that are very popular in Canada, were an Olympic symbol when Canada hosted the Olympics at one point, and are a really popular thing. And we, you know, growing up in California, we called them cairns or ducks. They would be used, the duck would be a stack of rocks with a longer rock positioned pointing the direction you're supposed to turn on a trail. There's a lot of different local practices of sometimes just rock stacking, of the act of balancing rocks. We see it on shorelines, we see it in natural parks. People have written about it as a distasteful form of natural graffiti, which I think is interesting. It is, and that to me, distasteful or not, I'll set that question aside. It speaks to why I think that's interesting as a serial collaboration, because what it screams is humans were here, like people were. This is not natural. Nature didn't stack these rocks. People did. You are here on this windswept coastline all by yourself, and yet around you are, if we could overlay all those moments in time, there would be a crowd all kneeling down and putting a rock on a stack of existing rocks. And that sense of community is really, I think, a really special, unique thing to experience in solitude, to be completely alone in nature and say, but look how I'm in a community. I'm adding to this collaborative project, but the seriality of it is allowing me this solitude while I do it. And so I was sort of like at the completely non-virtual end. Like, unless you go back to that beach, you're probably not going to find out who added a rock to your rock stack. You know, you just trust that it's happening. And at the other end, we have something like Where's George, where we're taking printed legal tender currency with serial numbers on it. We are using those serial numbers to literally track where those things go. Somewhere in the middle was the earlier practice that people had of painting coins. So before the internet, if you lived in a small town, you would take all your quarters and you'd paint one side of it blue, and you'd buy things with them, and people would still accept them because they were still legal currency. And then you would wait and see if those coins ever came back to you in the normal, and like you'd just pay for something at the grocery store with it and it would come back to you from 7-Eleven, you know? And people were sort of observing that, like, look, humans did that. And this, one of the coolest things that this ties to in the history of folkloristics is the theory of auto-migration of like folk songs, like the Finnish school folks saying like the songs travel. You know, the songs travel themselves, the stories travel on their own. And of course, we know the songs don't do that. People do that. Like, people move the songs so that there's this perception of freestanding song. You know, it gives us the item orientation that makes the song the thing, instead of that really more holistic view of, it's so much cooler when we think how many people had to get that song from here to there. You know, that's what we're watching when we do Where's George, is we say, holy crap, I had my hands on this blue coin 2 years ago and I just got it back. Like, how many other people were involved in this? So there was really this spectrum. And so I was basically saying that what technology does is it lets us lean in to that desire, to that drive, to see like flash mobs are inherently satisfying, not because we all wish we lived in a musical, partially that though, but also because they let us imagine that the world is that interconnected, that you can just be sitting in a public square and then everyone's dancing to Thriller and they all knew what to wear and they all knew when to be there. And it's like, it gives you, it's like living in a constructed reality where life is a musical.
This is why you're my thesis advisor, because now I'm thinking I'm thinking about like talking to geographers about the mapping that you're doing. Like putting a migratory like piece onto it, like somehow you're like visually, because like I'm thinking I mean, going back to like the like Lovelock things, like sometimes people put like their initials or their location or whatever on it. It's also like not unlike hotel books or like Airbnb books where people
guest
write
books,
like where guest books, like where they're writing like where they came from and whatever. They never write anything that's like this place, like they never write anything mean as far as I'm aware. Like those are just so fascinating. Like, what are you supposed to put in those books? People just put their name, they put something nice, sometimes they do a drawing and they're like, cool, thanks for the stay. Like they never put anything like, there's no like meaningful criticism or like critical thought in them. It's just like I was here, which is like also so interesting. Anyway,
and there
like
would be critical thought in a totally virtual environment. Airbnb reviews, people get nasty.
Yeah, but not
what
like
do they write in the guest book?
Yeah, like at the guest book though, and like
now
I want there to be a website where like you can map the locks and like you can visually represent over time. Anyway, okay, I got more questions for you
that would be so cool. But no, I mean it ties into that concept that I think is more an architectural or city planning concept than a geographer concept, but the idea of desire paths, right? That we forge our own direction. There's just a way we want to go through the built lands for the natural landscape, and that's the path we. And if you're going to pave somewhere, pave there, because that's where we're all walking. We do that in a metaphorical way. We all walk. There's a certain path we want to walk, and one of the paths that we want to walk is we want to hang our freaking lock where everyone else hung their locks. That's a desire path of cultural expression that basically says this adds a legitimacy to my endeavor that doing it somewhere else would not. And I mean, that's the authority of the folk, right? That's why we use a proverb instead of summing up the same concept in our own words.
Now I need to think about this, but it's Pokemon Go. Because
Daisy,
okay, I have to go. I'm sorry.
When you were like, oh, that reminds me of whatever, I'm like, no, it reminds me of Pokemon Go, Daisy. You're thinking way too hard. I've been thinking about Pokemon Go for the last 10 minutes, Daisy.
I just mean, like, I'm so curious with the developers of the Pokemon Go app, what data they were using to curate the space, and were they just talking to city planners about geographical marks, or were they talking folklore? Okay, I have other questions to ask you, but we should.
I know. Yes.
Okay, kind of like how Pokemon Go got banned in Turkey for making mosques part of a game. Yeah.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly. So Pokemon Go was the unwritten final chapter of the dissertation.
Yeah.
It came out too late, basically. But I was like, this is if Cairns and Inukshut are at the least virtual end, Pokemon Go is sort of at the most virtual end that still contains the physical planet that we live on. You know what I mean? Anyways, a conversation for another time.
Well, yeah, and that plays on pre-established locations of the collaboration and like codifies them via virtual participation that aren't necessarily, there are the Pokestops that are the parks, but there's also ones that are the Lovelock spot. So that's so interesting.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're recognizing the folk use of the landscape through it. Yeah.
Yeah, like officially. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Can I bring up a comment from chat?
Yes, there's a good comment in chat. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Who I don't know how I'm supposed to say this name. Anyway, a certain chatter says, I find it interesting both the question about placing locks where other people have placed locks, and what we find so fascinating about flash mobs is, to me, and I like this a lot. They both represent a transformation of liminal spaces into destinations in and of themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, and they make. And this is actually, so the article that I did publish out of my dissertation was titled Portable Places. And I looked at a lot of what cultural geographers as well as folklorists have said about this concept of place, and that place is like basically conceptually, as opposed to space, a conglomeration of orientation. Like we are oriented and then we are in a place. Whereas if we are disoriented or in a non-orientable space, we are in space. And I think Yifu Tuan, who's cool, uses the example of you're in the woods that look identical in all directions and you are nowhere until you see a light in one direction and suddenly you're in a place because you have a direction of orientation, you have somewhere to go.
Oh, that's
and so I was basically saying that these objects, a geocache, a flash mob, a book crossing book, become points of orientation that give us that sense of stability and structure that promotes not just a small worldview idea, but also the sense that, and I have a place in it. Like I belong in that small world. Like I have a part of this. So it's a personal conceptual orientation that turns the concept of place into something that can be entirely virtual, I think, as many games would suggest. And randonauting, one of our graduates, Jack, where's his name?
Jack Daly.
Jack Daly, friend of the show.
He was on the show before too.
Jack Daly is amazing. I don't know where his last name went in my brain. Anyway, he was writing about randonauting, and I think that he, used Jeannie's term simulacrum tripping to talk about this, and that's literally making a place out of nothingness, right? Like arbitrariness, largely. It's random coordinates.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Placemaking. It's like the act of placemaking.
Yeah.
That's neat. Anyway.
Speaking of placemaking, Lynn, we have one more serious question for you, and then we have a couple funsy questions that we'll go kind of rapid fire through. And Dom is going to take this one on.
Okay.
Yes, for obvious reasons, because of my weekend. How does digital culture influence ostensive practices like legend tripping, and what's your favorite legend trip moment?
Oh my gosh. Am I allowed? Okay. I'm going to answer the first part first.
If you insist.
I think that, thank you. I like to think about Michael Kinsella's book, Online Legend Tripping, when I think about, and that's a trippy read about a trippy situation. And he basically talks about, like, because this is the question that I always am left with. We can read a spooky story, and we wouldn't call that ostension, right? But if we go online and join in the chat of someone legend tripping, that's different. That's not just we are more ostensive, right? We are participating in the ostension in a way that we are not if we're just a passive recipient of, say, a work of fiction or even a work of nonfiction, but that isn't itself ostensive. It's really hard to sort of say, like, I mean, what we don't want to do is get to we want to avoid the folklore is everything fallacy. We want to avoid the anytime you do anything, it's ostensive, right? We don't want to say that. We want to keep this as a defined category, but we do have these new ways of behaving ostensively. And what we also have, kind of tying back into the idea of the role that digital culture plays in serial collaboration, digital culture gives us an orientation, if you will, a sense of purpose in our ostensive behavior. Daisy, Tide Pods. I didn't have to encounter a person in my physical offline analog existence eating a Tide Pod to engage in that ostension. It's digital, and I don't even have to really put a Tide Pod in my mouth. I could Photoshop a picture of me doing that. I could post a tweet that hints that I did do it. Pseudo ostension, maybe. Quasi ostension, but still, it's this different. It's an interesting thing because I made the argument, I think in my chapter in the Folklore and Social Media book, which is just such a cool book, not because of my chapter, because of everyone else's chapters. But I think I conceptualize the hashtag as customary folklore rather than verbal folklore or written folklore, textual folklore in there, because a hashtag is an act of affiliation. And that's where ostension is coming into play in these digital spaces, is that we have new ways that are actions, new things that are actions in the world that are, I think, ostensive. Is using a hashtag ostensive? Yes, maybe. I think, or is it maybe it's just customary, and then we can I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
And ostension is a term that has been so uniquely tied with legendary specifically, as opposed to other forms of, maybe I'm just being redundant. Maybe all customary folklore is ostensive in such a way that it needs not be pointed out. Of course you do a custom. That's the definition of the genre, behavioral, action-based folklore. So yeah, I think I just talked myself in a darn big circle there. But
What's
oh,
your...
well, what was the other part of the question?
What's your favorite legend trip moment?
Oh, okay. This is how I was going to answer this question. I do not want to go on at length, but this was so interesting. So I bought this house here, a historic house in Logan, down on Center Street, to use as sort of an event space / Airbnb, whatever. Let's hold folklore parties there. And as I was going through the house when I was thinking of buying it, the home inspector was like, "I need to show you something." And I was like,
"Oh my
okay.
God."
So he takes me up into the attic, and it's like the attic of the attic. It's not even like the normal
What?
attic. I have to pull down some stairs and climb up them and then go in a scary door. We open the scary door, and hanging from one of the rafters, there's no floor in this room. It's just like insulation and joists.
What?
But we are looking, there's a little platform we can stand on. We're standing on a platform looking at, there is a pink old-fashioned negligee hanging from one of the rafters in this attic. And I'm just looking at it, and this dude, the home inspector, turns to me and he goes, "So it's haunted." And I was like, "Yeah, it is."
Yes,
and he's like, do you want to leave the negligee there? And I was like, "Yes, leave the negligee there."
Are
Like,
you
have you
kidding?
never watched
Yeah.
a movie? Like, yes, we leave the negligee there, dude. Anyway, so we shut the door, we leave the negligee there, we walk away. I am later at a USU English department event at this house.
Oh my
And we're all
Oh,
hanging
no.
out after the
Oh,
party
no.
is sort of ended and everyone's having, and so I'm telling this story. And one of my colleagues goes, "I want to see it." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Show me
Evidence.
the negligee." And I don't know if she like doesn't believe me or what, but I was just like, "Okay, I'll show you the negligee." So we go legend tripping in my house. I don't
Oh
live
my
in this house.
God.
I just have parties there.
Yeah.
But so I am like, "Okay, we're going." So we pull down the attic stairs and we open the door and we are all like, there's like 6 of us and we have our cell phone flashlights and we're like shining the flashlights in the little
Don't.
attic of the attic space.
Don't tell me.
And there's no negligee.
I know. Oh my
It's
God.
not there. And I was like, really
What?
pissed, right? I was like, and I'm like, no one's gonna believe me. Like, this
Yeah,
is
right,
dumb.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
like
you're
it.
like, I'm a
guys, it
liar,
was there.
like-
I didn't make it up, I swear. And all of a sudden, someone goes, "Y'all are standing on it." And we look down, and on that little platform under our feet is the pink negligee. And we all scream and leap out of the attic. Like, I am so glad nobody died, like, falling down the stairs. We were all just in an absolute blind panic. Like, how did it get there?
I
Why are we
would
standing on it?
freak out.
And so, like, oh my gosh. So my, reasonably minded colleague, like, picks it up, and she holds it up, and she's like, the house was built in 1900. It was a boarding house. I call it the boarding house.
Oh my God.
And she's like, "It looks like maybe 1920s, 1930s." And she was like, "Was it on a hanger?" And I'm like, in my mind, it was on a hanger. That's how I saw it. And there's no hanger to be seen.
What?
And so we all agreed, like, we should put it back. So we draped it over the rafter that it had been hanging
Was
from
it, like, hanging
before,
on a
and we
nail
shut the
or
door and we
something?
walked away.
Oh
And
my
then
God.
now we're bringing in the ghost hunters, but it was just one of those
know a
moments
guy.
where it was such it was like, thank you, it was a new legend, it was like literally brand
Yeah.
new, but
Oh my God.
no less legitimate, and the first legend trip, and then we're standing on it, and it was just
Oh my
we
God.
we were freaked out. The house has a good vibe though, so I'm guessing it was like some cool lady renter.
At
I
least
don't
she
know,
was like
having a
least-
tryst.
Hopefully she forgave
know.
you for like destroying her negligee. Oh my gosh.
Standing. Well, it was dirty but intact, so
Okay,
I
that's
was
probably
at least
okay.
relieved
She
that
was
we
like-
hadn't damaged it in any way.
Oh my
But honestly, how did it get on the landing?
How did it get
and
the
why
bus-
the landing? If the wind knocked it down, why didn't it just land
Just like
in
on
the
the
insulation
ground.
piles?
Yeah, why was it on that spot? That is so wild. I think
So that's maybe. I mean, I don't know if that's like the best impressive legend trip story, but it is the most relevant. to me.
That's very good.
It was
I have
amazing.
2 additional points. One is
Mm-hmm.
that such and such mod named Folkwise commented, holy shit, the ghost got naked."
You, Daisy, you posted Folkwise.
And then,
Just
yeah,
stripping it off.
yeah, And then Foxy Folklore said, "Y'all are standing on it." I audibly gasped. Yeah.
Thank you. It was a gasp-worthy moment. As
Vulgar-
one of the people standing on it, I was not happy.
Vulgar Art says, "I like this mystery colleague who's also an underpants aficionado."
True. Very true.
And
Yep.
I I do also want to point out that earlier, this is completely unrelated to your answer or to this question, but there seems to be a moderator fight / encouragement in the chat happening between Folkwise, Dom, sometimes, but today it's Dom.
See you, Daisy.
Sometimes it's Dom. And Deathlorist, who is also a mod on our channel, and the two of them just rapid fire posting links to all of the people and the texts that you're citing, all of that kind of information for people to explore further. Very fun and cool. And
that's awesome.
And then as a true participant in the Academy and Field of Folklore and friend of the show, a Vulgar Art saw that was happening and also began adding links, to which then they were offered a role as a moderator on our channel. Now, I don't know if a Vulgar Art understood what that meant, but the offer stands. You can convince.
You say
the two. Okay, I do have to read you these responses also because
I want to say Vulgar Art was the first to find traces of coming and going. So
that's true.
Shouts to him.
Yeah, shouts to him.
Shit. Oh,
Yeah.
but that, I mean, Ian, we were. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to say your name.
Head start.
No, it's okay. You can say
A
his
Vulgar
Oh,
Art.
he's been on the
We
show.
were there
He's been on the
together.
Yeah, exactly.
Hi guys. That was like my first. It was one of my first publications ever.
Aw.
Traces of Coming and Going.
Hell yeah.
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 So
Inukshuit on the Avalon Peninsula. Yeah.
So a Vulgar Art says,
job.
what do a mod do? And then Folkwise says, drop links in the chat, like me and Deathlorist, LMAO. And then Deathlorist says, simultaneously rein in and create chaos. So hopefully either of those were convincing. Anyway.
That next
think we've
line,
done
that's what
a
mods
good
do.
job.
I read it like that pop song from when we were kids. That's what mods do. We'll keep you guessing the whole night through. Anyway.
Okay.
And also, you have to provide the soundtrack. I'm assuming that's a
Lynn,
built-in mod.
Lynn,
task.
we have currently a 10-track album in production for Folkwise based songs.
Songs
Oh
that
my
Daisy and I
God.
have sung on stream.
Songs that we
Yeah,
have
they
sung
keep
on
a sticky
stream.
note. They keep a sticky note.
Songs that
This
we
is
have
amazing.
sung on stream,
Okay.
a cappella style.
Can
Except for
it
two of
come
them, I
out
think,
on
yeah.
like vinyl LP?
Oh my
like,
God,
as
that'd be
well
so-
as
I
that'd
think it should come out on a
playlist or
only
something.
like Sony
kind-
mini disc.
I was gonna say, can I make you a mixtape?
Wax cylinder.
Wax cylinder.
Ooh,
Have a
dope.
mini disc
Cool.
player.
Oh my
I will
God.
play that mini disc.
You do?
I know.
Lynn, we
Oh, yeah.
are having too much fun and
Love that.
definitely going over time. So I have two.
sorry.
No, don't apologize.
Okay.
It's totally fine. Just making us all aware of the situation.
If you're watching
will
this on
be-
I
YouTube,
have-
shouts for watching this long ass video. I'm proud of you.
I have two funsy
Brevity
questions
is the
for
soul
you.
of wit, they say.
Two funsy questions for you.
I'm ready. I'm going to answer it so fast. Okay.
Is Jeff Goldblum
Okay,
really
good.
like that?
Yes. 1,000%. And it's so much better than you ever thought possible.
Oh, cool.
Holy shit, that's so cool. I'm so glad that was the answer. Okay, next rapid fire
Yes.
question.
It was so real. Yeah.
What is your go-to pie and beer on July 24th?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna break expectation and I'm gonna go pizza pie and really hoppy IPA.
That is
So
a great
kill me
choice.
for the pizza pie.
I love it. The za. That is
I
very good.
know.
That's very good.
It's like it's a
a
stretch of the pie. I'm a fan of savory over sweet, so I
Okay.
mean,
I like it.
and I have a
Pasta.
wood-fired pizza oven, so I have
Okay,
to.
I have one more
you have
since
a
you brought
wood-fired
it up.
pizza oven.
I have one more since you brought it up. This was a question we were maybe going to cut, but since you brought it up, do you have a secret pizza dough recipe?
Oh my gosh, I totally have a secret pizza dough recipe.
Is
There's
it-
a long story behind it
You
though
think she's
that
gonna
we do
share
not have
that?
time to tell.
Exactly.
Well, I assumed that you wouldn't have
Yeah.
to tell. I just wanted everybody to know that you make
Can
the
I-
best pizza.
Can I ask a leading question?
Yes.
Yes.
Do cold ferment?
No.
Okay.
Interesting.
All right. I'm trying to guess your pizza dough recipe.
Oh my gosh, it is so stupidly like specific and locavore, and it's yeah. I mean,
Amazing.
this is guys.
Respect.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna tell you the short version of the story. I get the pizza
Great.
oven. I am told because I don't cook like at all, and now I do. I make pizza from
Ready to
total
make
scratch.
pizza.
Like pizza begins growing tomatoes in the garden, you know. And so they're telling me in the brochure for freaking pizza. And they're like, you're gonna have to get really fancy flour now. And then they say I can order it through them, and I'm like, of course I can. And they're like this fancy San Francisco pizza oven company, and they're like, we source our pizza flour from only 2 places in the world, Naples, Italy, and Logan, Utah.
Okay.
And I was
no way. That's
so
very
at first I think, because I'm reading it online, and I'm thinking it's like a cookie where it's like Naples, Italy, and your hometown. You know what I mean? So I didn't believe it, and then it turned out that Central Milling in Logan, Utah, makes the 00 pizza flour that like most super fancy wood-fired oven pizzerias in the United States, they buy their pizza flour. They are 4 blocks from my house. So I can just drive there, get a 50-pound bag of 00 pizza flour, gluten enhanced, for $30 and drive it back home. Like, it's insane. Like, it's truly insane. Anyway. And then I have bees.
Cool.
And I activate the yeast with my bees' honey.
That is also
I know
extremely
I
cool.
told you, horrendously pretentious, but it's the only food I cook. It's that and salami is what I eat, like salami and cheese.
Horrendously pretentious, but like you're basically a Walking Dead character. Like in the zombie apocalypse, you'll be the last person to know pizza.
Oh my god. My wood-fired oven, it holds like 350 degrees for like 8 hours, and I'm just like, this is my barter chip in the apocalypse.
Yeah,
I have the oven that will work without electricity.
You get a ring with a crossbow and you're set. Yeah.
I know. I've thought about this a lot, you guys. Like a lot.
Wow.
I've thought about this a lot.
I love that.
I know. Yeah, the sawed-off shotgun to defend the pizza oven. I don't own that yet, but.
Well, that's for close. You need a distance one because they'll smell the pizza coming. Yeah, crossbow, exactly.
Crossbow, I can create more ammunition for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly. Yeah, I know.
Everybody, ladders for Lynn so far. That was amazing. I have a game for us to play.
Yes.
Are you ready for a game?
Excited. I clicked on it.
Okay,
I feel like I'm gonna be bad.
No, there's no possible way you could be bad at this.
You're the only person for this.
You're the only person who could do this, besides your co-authors, probably, who have yet to be on the show.
So
Tell them
ready.
to talk to us. So, folks,
I will.
Some of you may or may not know that at the end of our formal series of questions, we like to ask our guests to play a game with us. This week, we asked Lynne McNeill to make a tier list with us. Lynn, have you ever made a tier list before?
No, I have not.
Well, in that case, Dom, would you like to explain very quickly what a tier list is?
Sure. Tier lists come from fighting games as a way to rank choice in fighting games like characters or whatever, but they popped off on Twitch in the last couple of years as a way to rank everyday life, which of course we as folklorists love. So, on a scale from S to D, S being superior, D being barely passing, Daisy will walk you through, you probably know them, the foodways in This Is the Plate, and you are going to rank them.
These are all from part 1 of This Is the Plate with Utah Foodways, or Utah Food Traditions, actually, as it's technically called. These are all from
We just called it the food book. The whole time we worked on it.
Death Lords!
The food book. Yeah.
Thank you for all of your subs. Oh my gosh.
Wow!
Thank you for all the subscriptions. So much. Wonderful.
Wow.
These are all the quote-unquote official traditional foods that are part of the first chapter of the book. So we kind of had to narrow it because we don't want to get too wild on the show. I have too many things for you to rank. But of those, probably what people have heard of and hopefully some that they've never heard of before, on a scale from S to D, yes, we have these foodways. So first up, and they rank on a scale of whatever you decide. Because some of these are going to be really hard to compare. So I'm looking forward to how you decide to compare them.
I was
a
judge. At the official Utah State Thanksgiving Point Heritage Cook-Off, where I had to eat a lot of these things.
Let's
and
go.
Judge them.
Perfect.
It was
perfect.
It was nuts. Yeah.
All right. First up, I have a kind of unique one. Dutch oven cooking.
I had Dutch oven last night for
No way.
yeah.
for America's birthday.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
It was actually a dish called by its maker Mormon mess. So I ate Mormon mess out of a Dutch oven literally last night in the national forest, sitting by a river. So
there are
I'm
only
gonna
certain places
I'm gonna
that
have
you
to
could
go.
make that sentence up.
Mormon mess is
Okay,
is when Colin kissed Emily Crandall instead of Annalie Ross.
I was gonna say, oh my god, I can't believe that happened. Okay, yeah, I don't know if
That's
you've
a
watched
mess.
Provost Most Eligible, but you should if you haven't.
Oh my god, I'm very excited.
Wait, do you know
so
it's?
can,
do you know
can
that?
things?
Do you know Colin Ross, Provost Most Eligible, was Rachel Ross's little brother? Like my cohort, Rachel Ross's little
What's the
brother
BYU Bachelor?
Yes.
was
Yeah.
the BYU
Yeah.
Bachelor. Okay, I
Yes,
don't know if you
I
knew
did
that,
know
but
that.
okay, I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure
Yes,
that was
yes.
official.
I think
Okay.
yeah, that is amazing.
Anyway,
Everyone
oven.
should know that. Is the thing. My question is, can a rank have more than one food in it, or am I limited
definitely,
to like
Yes.
five?
definitely, no, definitely, and you can
Oh,
change.
okay.
You
They
can,
go horizontal,
Dutch
they go
oven.
horizontal and vertical. Yeah.
yeah, and you can change it by the end.
Okay,
too.
Dutch oven is A. It
Okay.
gets an A.
Gets
Okay.
an A. All
It
right,
just is.
A right now. Next, of course, we have fry sauce.
Hell yeah.
I'm a fan.
S.
I'm an
S.
insane,
Oh yeah.
an insane,
Fucking go.
true fan of fried
What?
sauce. Like, I love fried sauce.
What's the
A
thing
lot.
that?
Mike Christensen wrote a great chapter on it in the food book. Sorry.
what's
go
the
ahead.
thing that fry sauce has to have to be official fry sauce in your mind?
To me, it's pickle juice. It has
Yeah.
to have.
Ooh,
It cannot. Well, obviously, it has to have ketchup and mayo. That's
Sure,
the
sure,
basis. But
like
people
the
call that a lot of
essence.
things. I mean, they even tried mayo chip for a while. Bad plan. Thousand Island dressing, some people will say, but no, it turns to fry sauce when there is a hint of dill, some sort of pickling spice is involved, in my opinion.
Amazing.
And,
Up
you know,
next, we got
I wrote the book.
funeral potatoes.
Hell yes.
Okay.
Quintessential.
Can I
They
tell
are-
a funeral potato story real quick?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Please.
When we would have gutses at Caroline's house, and Jessie Riddle either wouldn't drink or wouldn't drink as much as her non-Exmo friends, she would always just make funeral potatoes to sober us up. And thank God, Heavenly Father, whoever, for funeral potatoes, the greatest sobering up food.
Yes.
Heavenly Mother is who we're going to choose to
Heavenly
thank.
Mother.
for
Oh, is that Mormon
she's
Virgin Mary? Who is this?
No, it's Mormon
it's
wife
only
of God,
it's-
Mormon goddess.
It's
They
only
don't talk about her
moms.
a lot.
It's only moms who make this.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Oh
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
so who are we going to thank? Heavenly Mother. Okay, so
Hard to go
what
wrong
did
with-
Jessie put on top? What was the topping? Was it cornflakes? Was it sour cream and onion potato chips? I need to know.
It was cornflakes.
Okay.
It's
That's a
cheaper.
good job, Jessie.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
cornflakes.
crumbled sour cream and onion chips.
That would be
It's
very
like
good.
you're adding more potatoes to the potato. I'm going to put funeral potatoes. Right now, I'm going to put them at a B, but they're pushing A along with. Guys,
Okay.
I'm too enthusiastic about things.
So
like,
yeah, make it
that's
note that it's
okay.
staying top of B. It's staying top of B for now. Yeah.
You can check. Yeah, we can.
Yeah,
you
it's-
can revise this
yeah.
list at the end if you must. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because like I have a wine journal because I buy a lot of wine and I like wine and I drink wine. And my ranking system of wines basically goes from like just squiggles and OMG to it was okay. Like the worst ranking I've ever given a wine is it was okay. So
Fair.
probably says something about me. But so I'm worried that nothing's going to hit the D's. But I can't see all the pictures down
Good.
here totally clearly, so we might get there. What's
Good.
next?
Well, next is green Jello.
Oh, what is there stuff in it
I was
in
assuming
this iteration? Is there
in
like
this-
carrots?
the picture isn't, but I would assume carrots because
But it
that
is.
seemed to be the most traditional green Jello of Utah.
This is going to solve our problem. It's a D.
Straight to D
Straight
moment.
to D,
It's-
straight
Straight
to
to
D,
D
folks.
moment.
Straight to
D.
D.
Straight to D. Yeah. Yeah. I don't have time for this. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, it's
Like,
like,
and
come on.
neither should anyone.
No,
Really.
no,
You know?
no.
Yeah.
Up next we have
Straight
local.
to D is going to be like my lasting quote from this like 4-hour epic adventure
well,
that we're on.
do-
It's just going to be
Do we
straight
have
to D.
Do we have a clip we need to show you?
Yeah.
From our interview with Lamont Jack Purley about the Temptations. It's really good.
Yeah, he coined straight to D about
Yeah.
a member of the Temptations. Yeah.
It's very good.
Oh shit.
It's very
Okay.
good.
That makes, I'm glad I could unknowingly. Yes.
Up next we have local honey. Of
Oh,
course.
who's that sound like?
Oh, I mean, guys.
Yeah.
If we're
The
actually calling
beehive-
it local,
Beehive State
The Beehive
local
State.
honey.
Beehive State.
oh yeah, I'm going up to A. I mean,
Okay.
we all know
Top A or bottom A?
that.
You think above or
below
Dutch
fry
oven?
sauce.
No.
No,
Above or
okay,
below
below
Dutch
below
oven.
Dutch
above
ovens.
Dutch oven.
Got it.
Above Dutch oven.
Above. Let's go.
Dutch oven.
Top A. Top A.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay, top A. Yep. Okay. Good.
Up next we
I love
got
this.
I've never had this
Oh.
for many reasons,
Yeah.
but I've also not seen it that much on a menu. The pastrami burger.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's
let's
a
go.
whole chain of Greek burger restaurants that are all over Utah, and in fact, if you've ever seen the Broadway production of the Book of Mormon, it features in their Salt Lake City backdrop Royal Burger or Crown Burger. They're all called Royal Burger, Regal Burger, Crown Burger, Apollo
Yeah.
Burger. Like they're all Greek. They all make pastrami burgers. They all have some form of royalty or deity in their name,
Yeah.
and they're really amazing. I'm gonna put that under fry sauce and B.
Under fry sauce.
Not fry sauce. Why am I getting this right? Funeral potatoes.
Funeral potatoes.
No, in B, but after funeral
Okay.
potatoes. Sorry.
Yeah.
After
Fair.
funeral potatoes. Though.
Very fair.
That's
Got
my
it.
weakness for carbs is showing.
Hell
you
yeah.
know.
Hell yeah.
Okay. I like this.
Up next we have
We know.
Salt Lake Valley saltwater taffy. Official taffy from the
That's
saltiest
good.
of the lakes.
I don't want to give it a C because that makes me feel sad for taffy. But I'm gonna put it below pastrami burgers in B.
That's
Like
fair.
I
Okay,
worry
okay.
I can only be mean to Jello.
Bottom of
I'm
B.
worried
That's
that-
good.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It kind of, you know,
This
gets
is
like
like-
stuck on your teeth and stuff. It's like a tourist trap
Yeah.
food. It's kind of
It's really good, but it's not like they sort of sell it everywhere. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, I guess it's very salty in that Salt Lake. Anyways, okay, what's up next? Oh, is this a thick shake?
This is a thick shake. Official thick shake.
It's superior after fry sauce.
Oh, yes. What's your
Oh, okay.
flavor?
It's
What's
up
your
there.
flavor choice?
I know. This is weird because I would not ever have thought that this would be a thing that I would be deeply committed to, but I am. I got to do an interview, I guess just for the university, but it was like I had to go to Peach City, which is this ice cream shop in Brigham City, Utah, where they made me a bunch of thick shakes, and then my job was to eat them messily on camera.
What?
Oh my god.
Where's the video
but
picture?
also
It didn't happen. What?
Amazing. Oh my gosh, there are pictures. There is an article somewhere. I will have to find it. There's
That's
me
so
like
funny.
leaning over with a spoon. I think it made it onto Twitter. I look like a linebacker somehow in this picture, which is hilarious because there's like ice cream dripping down my hand and my shoulders are all like, I'll murder you, but I'm like eating ice cream. It's amazing. Like,
That's awesome.
yeah, I am just, and after that, like they had to buy me two because my first one melted too soon, and I was like, can I still eat it? And they were like, yeah, and so then I just, anyway,
I gotta say,
It
as
was good.
Folkwise,
So
who
yeah,
may or may
they're
not
up
be,
there.
as Folkwise in the chat, who may or may not be me or Dom, did post Peach City thick shake. I feel like there's some innuendos happening there. That,
Death Lords also
happened.
posted thick
I know.
shake with two C's, okay?
But
until
not-
anyone
Yes.
but
says,
not-
"Yes, explain it."
but it becomes
It's the great fairy of milkshakes.
Okay, we already know that thick shake was there, but the Peach City really took it over the edge. So
It really did.
Ian is linking to a website, folklorists.sloppyface.com.
Wait, is that real?
I don't
No.
know. It's a link. Just kidding. Up next.
Well, but now I'm gonna this is how I get malware.
Oh my
Just
God.
by clicking on the links that a vulgar art is sending us.
Up next we've got scones.
Oh, okay, Utah scones
And-
are amazing because they're not scones; they're fry bread.
Yeah.
Like Navajo fry bread, made with the rations that the U.S. government provided to
Pop
the
'em off.
Navajo people.
And if it doesn't
giving
have,
us both.
I have a strong opinion about the honey butter that accompanies
Honey
it.
butter.
If it doesn't have honey
Yep.
butter, it's not the same.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah, I'm actually gonna put it in between funeral potatoes and pastrami burger.
Okay.
Because it's also, in a savory way, it's the basis of what is colloquially known as the Navajo taco. Even among the Navajo people, it is referred to as the Navajo taco, which is like chili. It's amazing. If you guys ever get the chance, this whole book, the food book, was spawned in the Black Sheep Cafe, which is a modern fusion
That place is so
dining
cool.
experience in
Yes.
Provo, Utah, that blends like South American, traditional Navajo, and contemporary cuisines. And
It's really cool.
they make a Navajo taco that is insanely good. Like, insanely good. Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, wait, what do we have left? What
So
are we going to
our-
fill in a C? I
Okay.
feel like no.
Oh, I don't know if you're gonna put this at C, but finally here at the bottom, I have a picture of.
I remember what's missing from the chapter. Sorry, I remember.
I
Now
have here a stand-in of Wasatch Brewery's Polygamy Porter for local brews in Utah.
Yes, it's awesome. Local brews are actually now they're going superior because they're getting amazing. The alcohol culture in Utah is like booming. Pie and Beer Day is a growing holiday because of
Yes.
it. The Olympics are what changed the game here. Our friend Mitt Romney, as the organizer of the Olympics, got it so that we could advertise beer in Utah. 2002. That was the first year that a
Wow.
billboard for alcohol went up in the state of Utah. And
Wow.
the billboard that went up was Wasatch. Is it Wasatch or Squatters? It's Squatters.
Right.
Polygamy Porter.
No, it's
They
Wasatch,
had sort
I
of a
think.
neoclassical. Is it Wasatch?
I think it's Wasatch
Okay, thank
Polygamy
you.
Porter,
They had
yeah.
like a sort of neoclassical painting. I think I just drink it at Squatters.
Yeah.
Of like one man with many wives, and their tagline, "Why have just one?" It was game changing. I'm gonna
They
put
have,
it ahead of Thick Shakes and after
Oh,
fry sauce.
but after
in
fry
the superior
sauce.
category.
I was gonna say
I
they
mean,
also have
guys,
other.
They
They have like
They have a lot.
what's it called? Like
Outer Darkness.
Outer Darkness. Yeah, I was gonna say Outer Worlds. I'm like, that's a video game. Yeah, they have Outer Darkness, which is like an LDS kind of like in the know, like wordplay thing. They have a bunch of ones
They
that are
have-
like different kinds of wordplay and references to
Yeah.
like Mormon culture.
Yeah, they have
and
a
literature.
live and let live, which was when Utah became something impressively high up there. I want to say some 10th state in this country to legalize same-sex marriage. They made their live and let live, which has two ambiguously gendered figures leaning on each other in a chairlift seat, and a little paragraph on the back that's just sort of like, people like different things, and Utah likes it when people like different things, and everyone should just like whatever they want, and that should be okay. And it was like this
It's
really
like, wink,
super
wink.
subtle reference to same marriage,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was a good subtle one from
That's
I think
cool.
Wasatch.
Yeah, that's
that was
very
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
This is it, folks. This is the official. This is the Plate Utah Foodways
Yay.
tier list from Lynne McNeill. Official ranking, straight to D. Please leave the Jello. Keep the fry sauce.
Straight
put it
to
on
D.
everything. Yeah.
Yes.
This is it. And of
Yes.
course, This is the Plate is a reference to This is the Place, which is what Brigham Young said when he arrived, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brigham Young.
Supposedly, right when he arrived in 1947. How about 1847?
Yeah.
74? 47. It's 47. I'm pretty sure.
Can I say it, Daisy? Can I
anyway.
say it?
Yeah.
And that's on Brigham.
And that's on Brigham. Oh my god.
Tell me that's a callback to something.
We've had a handful
It's a callback
of
to Provo's Most Eligible. This has been like a
Yeah,
real
we've-
Utah heavy summer.
This is the official tier list.
Next
Lynn.
week too, right? Next week
I
too.
love it.
Next week too. Next week we're gonna have Shelley Jones. It's all coming together.
It's hot. It's hot.
Yay,
It's hot.
Shelley.
It's,
Yeah.
it's hot beehive summer.
Hot beehive summer.
That
Let's
is
go.
awesome. And just remember, the beehive is a symbol of the sacred feminine. So
Yes.
we don't need to just read history into that. We need to read, worshiping
Yes.
the ladies.
Absolutely. Lynn, thank you for being on the show. This was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Guys, this was amazing. This was so much fun.
If
like
you
it.
haven't done it already, ladders for Lynn, GG's
Drop
for
ladders
Lynn.
for
Aw.
Lynn.
Yeah, just
Thank you.
celebrate up a storm.
Objects Quilts have had meaning on many levels. Making quilts helped me to get a sense of my own space, sense of finding my way, sense of really working my way out of the labyrinth.